Hey there, mamas. Today we're going to be working on the shirt for the 18-inch doll. So this shirt template is such that it doesn't need to be stretchy, so it can be sewn the same way whether you're using a knit fabric or a woven fabric. And there are only a couple of differences, and that's the neckline, the collar. When you're sewing the knit fabric, you want to pull it just a little bit snug so that it hugs against the neck and looks like a t-shirt. But when you're doing it with the woven, you're just going to have a looser neck. That's really the only difference. It's because they're velcroed at the back, so they're not really stretchy anyway. You can make it more snug or looser and just cut it a little bit outside the template, but it really isn't any different in the assembly process. It's the only one that doesn't matter. Everything else has to be modified just a little bit. So I'm going to be doing this with the woven first, and then I'm going to do a little bit just to show the collar of the knit. Let's get to it. So depending on whether or not you want to have trim on the wrists of your woven, you can use the trim with an accent and serge that on and have like a cuff, or you can just hem it like you would a pair of pants, and then you would just fold it in half. If you're going to hem it, I would do that at the end after it's been sewn, but when I do the cuff, I like to do that before I assemble the pieces together. I pressed it in half, but you can just fold it. And then you're just going to sew it straight on to the end of the sleeve. So now you've got both of them hemmed, and one thing you can do is you can go with your sewing machine and sew it again just above it and make a nice even press. And I'm going to be doing that before I put everything together, but for now I'm just doing all the serging. So now you've got the front of your body piece and the two pieces that are going to be at the back. And I just put them shoulder to shoulder and serge across each shoulder. The biggest difference when doing the knit versus the woven will be doing the arms. When you attach the sleeves on a knit, it's much easier because it stretches and you can just kind of pull it as you go. When you're doing it with the woven, you've got to go more slowly and more carefully. So now you've got your basic body. And the next thing I'm going to do is take the front and the back and lay them flat, and then take your sleeve piece here and you're going to put them face to face with the face side facing the face side, and you're going to have to sew it on the one that's concave along to the one that's convex, and this is the part that's easier if it's a knit, but you're just going to take it and clip it or pin it and then just go very slowly moving it along that curve. You'll see it has that nice shape now because it went from the concave to the convex. That's how sleeves get their nice structured shape. Let's do it to the other side. Lovely. So now at this point, You could do the collar now, but I'm gonna do my sleeves right now. So at this point, because I'm using the woven, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna sew over these to flatten the sleeves. You can also just iron them, but I think this is a nice time to get this out of the way. And now you'll see it's got that nice flat hemmed edge. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. So now, got the piece, looks like this when it's all opened up. And you're gonna go and you're gonna sew on your neck hem. And then at the end, I'll show you how to do that for the knit. And then the very last thing you're gonna do is fold it inside out and just sew all the way from the wrist to the waist. And then after that, all you're gonna do is hem up the bottom and clean up all your ends. So you don't need to worry about this lining up exactly because it's gonna fold over at the back when you sew it up. So you can go beyond this. You could always have your edge go beyond it. So we're gonna do it the same way as we do all the serging. So now we're just gonna take our serger and we're gonna lay our neck hem along the neckline. We're gonna have it with the tops, the raw edge at the top, and folded with the faces, just like we've been doing. And you're just gonna go slowly around that corner, just like you did with the shoulders. So at that point, you're just going to clean up your end. And since it's not knit, you don't need to feed your tails. You can just cut them. So now you've got this neck trim. And you can go and sew it down the same way that we did the sleeves to make a nice line. Keep it flat. So now you've got your nice finished neckline. And you'll see it doesn't pull in. It doesn't pull in like the neck would on the knit. You also could just add knit binding at the top, and then you would have like a little bit of a stretchy neck at the top of the woven. That would work just as well. And then it would look like a pulled in neck. So then at this point, like I was saying before, we're just gonna take it and we're gonna serge it down, or sewing machine. If you're using a sewing machine, you can use a zigzag or something to stop it from fraying. And you just line it up, serge from wrist down to the waist, and you do the same thing on the other side. And for the end of the wrist here, you can still do the yarn needle trick. Or you can finish it a different way. totally up to you. If you were going to do a normal hem at the end instead of having a cuff like this, then you wouldn't need to do anything because then you could just fold it under when you're hemming. And now everything's done except for the Velcro and the bottom hem. You could do snaps or buttons too if you want. But since it's rear fastening and for kids, either little spots of Velcro, sometimes they use little circles of Velcro, or sometimes they use little rectangles. I just do strips, but I've seen it done a lot of different ways. At this point, what I typically do is I serge down the sides just to reinforce it and stop it from fraying, just straight down, and then along the bottom too. And then you just fold that in and then sew it. And you can either sew it ahead of time or you can sew it while you're attaching your Velcro. If you're using a sewing machine, you can totally just not do that and fold it and just sew it down, and it'll be clean enough. It won't matter. You don't need a second seam. But I just do it to finish the edges. And there's your edges. And then at this point you can use your iron to press it nicely to get that nice straight line. And then after you've done, you can do it in either order. I guess I would probably do the bottom first and then the side, but you could do the side and then the bottom. You're just going to fold it up and just sew it to finish off the edge. So there you've got your bottom hemmed. Nice finished edge there. And on the inside. And then you do your sides. And I don't have any Velcro picked out, so I'm just going to sew it without it for now. But you can add it on after the fact. And there you've got it. 18-inch doll shirt. Just add your closures. This one's long sleeve, but the pattern has size for short sleeve, or you could do cap sleeve, or you could do tank tops. And now I'll cut to just doing the collar on the stretchy. But everything else is exactly the same, and really that part is very slightly different. You just pull it a little bit tight. You know, it just occurred to me that because of the non-shape of these dolls, they don't really have a difference in their front or back, that the shirts can also just be coats. So they can be worn either direction. Like this is the shirt, and at the front it just overlaps a little bit more, but you could totally have the shirt also be a jacket. You could just not put any closures on it and have it be an open jacket. Or you could fold down the neckline a little more and have it be a dip front jacket. It's the exact same. It just fits the same way. That's crazy. I never really thought about it. We never used it that way, and I was just putting it on her, and I thought, oh, I wonder if it works as a jacket. And look at that. Now she's got a coat. So funny. So here I am working with my knit fabric, my jersey knit, and I'm at the point where I would add the collar. I've got both of my arms sewn together with their cuffs. I've got all the body pieces sewn together at the shoulders. And then I've got this piece of stretchy trim. And I'm using a complementary color, but you can use whatever, solid or pattern or whatever you want. And I've just got it folded in half. And we do this the same way. Now, at the very back where it's going to be attached, we're not going to be pulling it tight at all. We're going to be just sewing it without any pull all the way until we get to the shoulder. And then once we get to the shoulder, we'll pull it just a tiny bit to give some tension around the front of the neck. And then we'll go flat again. And that'll give it that t-shirt type of neckline. Then we just cut off the excess. So now we take a look at it, and you can see that it's pulling in a little bit, like the cuff of a pair of sweatpants would. And that'll give it that shape around the neckline. Now at this point you could go with a stretch stitch on your sewing machine, and you could finish off and make it lay flat. Or you could just sew it together like this and just do a serger only, like how I do my serger only dresses. The next step after this is then to serge on or sew on the sleeves, and this will be a lot easier with the knit because you can just pull it straight as you go. So you'd pinch your points together, the midway point and the end, just those 3 points, and then as you're sewing you just kind of straighten it out and serge it right through. Here we have both the woven and the knit shirts. I think the woven looked pretty darn nice as a little coat. I think I'll keep it that way. So maybe I'll attach little hooks for a coat or little buttons. You can add buttonholes after the fact. That would work really well. Now for the knit one, I added some Velcro at the back. I just did like a half of a strip that I got at Joann or somewhere. I've had it sitting in my drawer forever. And I did the hook side on the inside and the loop side on the outside. And then when you put it on, it's easy for them to just line up the top and Velcro it together. So that's the back. And then the front's got the nice gathered neckline. But everything else about sewing them is the same. So these ones are pretty easy. Tomorrow we'll be doing the dress. The dress is the same as making the shirt, but you only make it about half as long, and then instead of finishing off the bottom, that part is then sewn to a skirt. And that's all it is. And then the Velcro is only from there up. And then the skirt is below that. So I'm just going to make a little circle skirt, and we're going to serge it onto one of the shirts that's been cropped a little shorter. Happy sewing!